Good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Fire Caves, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine podcast, or really now just kind of a Star Trek podcast. But tonight we get to return to our Deep Space Nine roots, so it's still fitting. I am one of your hosts, Perry.
And I'm your host, David. Tonight we're going to be talking primarily about Voyager Season 1, Episode 3, Time and Again. But before we continue, you can find us on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube as The Fire Caves, a Star Trek podcast.
Now, in addition to anything Voyager we speak about, we are also going to be covering the series acclamation Mill episode of Star Trek Starfleet Academy, mainly because this is an episode that does pay tribute to Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and of course, the great man himself, Benjamin Lafayette Sisko. Just want to bear in mind, real quick, we have a quick preference on our discussion about that. We are not going to be discussing that episode in its entirety. We are really going to be focusing just on the aspects of it that are about Cisco. So if we're looking for a breakdown of the episode, what we thought about Starfleet Academy, all that kind of stuff, not in it. Not going to be here. This is just mainly about the tribute stuff. That's it. Okay. So don't ask me, how we feel like, the Admiral compares to the what. No, none of that. None of that's in here. All right. It's just about Cisco. Okay. Now, before we dive into all that, of course, I'd like to give ourselves a nice opportunity to catch up with each other because sometimes it's been a week or so before David and I have gotten to speak to each other. So, that being said, David, how has your week been?
Yeah, actually done 2 weeks for us because last week was the Super Bowl and we obviously didn't meet because of that. Um, that means that it's been at least a week since I was in Houston for Mattress Firm's training. They do a pretty intense,
Yes,
like week-long training now.
David
Um,
has rejoined the enemy. He's
yeah, I'm now
become
a
a part
star.
of the.
I'm a stormtrooper all
Yeah,
over
he's a
again.
stormtrooper. Yeah.
But it was good. You know, t- the thing about training in a retail setting is that the the approach is in an idealistic situation. What would here's our suggestion for how you should do things, but it's difficult to practice for the unpleasant experience. It's just hard. You're primarily operating in like an ideal environment with kind of ideal scenarios. Not that the real life can't be ideal in some ways, but the real world is often a little more complicated than is easy to
So,
reproduce in a sterilized environment. Go
so
ahead.
would you happen to be talking about any kind of role plays that maybe you had to do
Oh,
where you were?
we did them. Oh
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I thought that was. You were dancing around. So just so you all know, David and I met when we both worked for Mattress Firm, and I'm very familiar with the overall training that they used to make people do when I was still there. And one of their favorite things to do is, of course, making you role play through various sales scenarios in order to finally hone your technique. So yeah, but that's what he's talking about here. Ideal
Yeah.
scenarios. It sounds great and all, but does it always work out that way? No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
One-offs are great, sure, but most of the time, you find yourself kind of doing this weird, dance around the issue while trying to get someone to give you their money. So,
Right. The way I would put it is very simply that the quote unquote patience that the person you're practicing with is ideal. The average person that comes in, their level of patience with whatever it is you're trying to do can vary very differently. I'm not saying it was a bad experience. I would say I had a good time in the sense that, um, it's good to hear like ways that are successful that the company has, learned to practice and teach its employees for over a long period of time. I've gotten out of rhythm on a number of things because I had my own store for a long time, and so I wasn't like I was just doing my own thing. And it is good to have people critique your method. So I think it was actually worth it in that sense. And it was like a week long, so I was gone for 5 days. And then this past week, the second week that since I've really been back, going into the stores and taking ups again and making sales. This is President's Day weekend, so this is one of those bigger weekends where they want you to work and hopefully make some sales. And I had a good one yesterday, but today was kind of a bust for me. Hopefully tomorrow. turn that around. So
David calls patience, I call soul sucking. I I feel like in this, for me anyway, when I worked there, I was very good at the more technical aspect of the job. There's a lot of management stuff you had to do for locations and people and stuff like that, and I kind of keeping. I think we used to call it spinning plates, and there are a lot of things that went into it that I was good at that were behind the scenes.
hmm
Comes to the persuasion, schmoozing, getting people to we used to call it building rapport, getting
yeah,
up to you and uh, you know, convince them to buy. That was always difficult for me, only because I've very much believed that if you presented the facts of something, the person should accept the facts. I persuade you that my facts are, better or worse. They're just the facts.
right,
Like science, it just is. There's no other way about it. That's it.
right.
Uh, and that was always my greatest weakness because and I have to admit, when I did kind of, I guess, buy into it and did all that stuff, I was successful. But it
hmm
just bothered me as a person because
Yeah,
that's who I am. I'm very much a fact-based individual, and so for me to have to do extra persuading around the facts bothered me. So that
yeah.
was mine. I
My
know.
biggest,
So yeah, there are people who are really good at it who don't really
yeah.
who can blend the two, or some who just blatantly don't rely on facts at all. They can get you to be their friend in an instant, and you
hmm
go for it. There are people like that. I am just not one of them.
Yeah. Well, there's two things that I think I appreciated. Number one, it's basically how it's just some simple techniques to how to kind of generate conversation. Ask questions about who they are, and then also ask for descriptive, responses from the person you're talking to. But for me, my biggest struggle is what's called, asking for the sale. When I go into a shop or a store, I go in there to buy something. I don't need someone to ask me, do you want to buy this? When I'm ready to buy, I will buy. I don't need anyone to follow me around. When I go into stores, I can think like there are two examples in my mind. I walk the store, I look for the thing I'm looking for. I enter, like I see one of the salesperson. If I need to say anything to them, I grab their attention, ask a question, go back. So it's very different to be on the other side of that. And like if I'm someone who I'll buy when I'm ready, I basically my personality is to give that to you. I'm not gonna bug you about, hey Perry, you want to buy? But there are definitely techniques and even reasons to kind of drive that point home a bit. Is the philosophy not to be annoying, but to uh, kind of put it to the customer, hey, you've come in for a reason. Have I answered those reasons? Have I given you everything you need to make a decision to buy, and then kind of just drive that home a little bit? So I think it was
I'm with
worth
you.
it. It was definitely long. I definitely was looking at my watch like, oh my gosh, we've been here for like 3 hours and I still have five more to go. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm very much the same way. When I go to a store, 9 times out of 10, I already know that the item that I'm looking for is there. If
hmm
I ask anybody, it's probably just because I can't find the particular row that it's on, and that's
yeah,
all I'm asking you for is general direction. I don't
yeah,
need any other sales information, whatever. And when it comes to something like a mattress, again, I've already looked it up. I already know your store has it. I'm coming there to just make that final part. I don't need any of the rest of it. I get annoyed when people try to volunteer more again, that's just me because I
hmm
I like to try to cut that down as much as possible. Get in, get out, go home. That's
right,
just me. So all of that to say, I just learned a lot about myself in the sense of I knew that this job wasn't for me as much as I tried to make it something for me for quite a while. I was there. I was at Mattress Firm for a while,
yeah,
but now I'm much happier elsewhere. So
right.
more power to you,
Yeah.
but no, I'll never return.
In
Uh,
the meantime, I watched the show Pluribus. I don't know if you've heard of that show by chance. It's on Apple TV. I watched it while I was away.
mm,
It's an interesting premise. The opening episode is very much like what would happen if a zombie apocalypse started up because of an alien virus. But instead of turning people into zombies, It instead turns them into these really super nice, lovely hive mind people. They all have their, memories and experiences all joined together, and now they're all a bunch of lovely, wonderful uh, members of a hive mind. I mean, um, it was an interesting show, and I liked it overall. But the main character I felt was a bit. The main character is a woman who's basically she's kind of traumatized by the whole thing in the sense of like obviously it's very troubling to see your best friend and everyone suddenly get sucked up into this weird hive mind thing, and people you don't know acting like they know you. And I just felt like the main character didn't ask the right questions a lot of times,
Hmm.
and like the other characters who don't get assimilated because they it turns out that like their biology doesn't quite fit the alien virus thing. Like too many of them were like way too happy to accept the idea that they were about to be mind melded with everybody else. And like this one character is like the only person who like has any sort of like hesitations about it. So it was an interesting show. It's made by the same guy who did Breaking Bad, so it's like he's turning to a different style, different genre with this new show that he's doing. Um, so yeah, it was interesting. I definitely had critiques for like how I would have written a character in that same world, but it was an interesting 9 episodes. I assume they're going to have more in the future. Um, Other than that, also been watching the Rise of the Merlin show on Daily Wire. Overall, it's okay. It's I wish I could say I absolutely love it. I did absolutely love the fight scene they had in the most recent episode 5. They had two characters have a brawl for power, and that felt like a very realistic fight. Like I didn't feel like it was amateurish at all. But there's other parts. I'm going to say it this way. I feel like it's the storytelling that they're having to, the books they base the show off of. I'm not the biggest fan of. As I said in the previous episode, there's the storytelling in the books is too much of and then, not
Hmm.
therefore or however. It's too much and then, and then, and then. And that's a flawed way of telling a story. And even trying to translate it to TV or a movie is not going to fix that. So, but otherwise, it's fine. I wish I could say it was great, but it's okay at best. So,
Well, I spent a lot of time also kind of getting caught up on a lot of different shows. I actually on Paramount Plus currently, all of the Taylor Sheridan verse shows are
mm,
available except for Yellowstone for some strange reason. So in I've seen so many clips of Yellowstone that it finally, got me. Okay, I'm gonna watch this show. But then I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, let's go ahead and watch them in chronological order since
mhm,
you we have the ability.
mhm,
So I did, and I spent the time. I watched, the shows 1888, Bass Reeves, 1923. I went through all of them, even to the point of when I got to where Yellowstone should start and found out that there was no Yellowstone, I went ahead and skipped over it and was watching Landman.
mhm,
Um, the shows they're really not bad shows. I My only critique of them would be to not do what I did, which is watch them all back to back. I think you need to give yourself a break
mm,
from the genre. The shows are very gritty,
mhm,
very graphic, very. I'll give Taylor Sheridan a lot of credit. He throws a lot of detail, a lot of historical detail into his stories and into the show. If you, I mean, there's really no truly good, truly innocent characters
mhm.
in any of his shows that I've
Right.
watched. Even the even like the protagonists who may start off as very righteous, something happens along the way that throws a little dirt on them for
Yeah.
you. And but again, all the shows I thought the shows were great. I loved the narrative. I loved the way that they did mix in the actual history with the fiction of some of the shows that he was telling. Now, Bass Reeves is the show that's actually based on true story, true events. Bass Reeves was a actual individual. He was a bounty hunter. He was, 100% legit. So when you're watching that one, you can look a lot of that stuff up and get it verified. Now the other
Mhm.
shows, 1888, 1923, those are a fictitious account of a fictitious family, but it is based on historical fact of other families who went through similar events. And then he adds his own little spin, of course, on those. But again, I think they're great. I think without having seen Yellowstone, I think 1923 is probably the best one.
Hmm.
That's the one that stars Helen Mirren and Harrison Ford. Probably why it's the best one. They give
Yeah.
great performances
Hmm.
in that show. They're just great. Timothy Dalton's also in it towards the end. He played Bond in the 80s. For those of you who know, just great. The one thing that I would again critique about that one in particular is there seems to be this trend, and I've seen this in a few shows now, that especially like contemporary shows, of the villain doing some kind of sexually deviant thing, and that's almost always how you recognize that they are terrible.
Bad. Hmm.
We saw this in Game of Thrones with Joffrey and the way he was, beating on those, having those women beat on each other. Also, think the Bolton guy and his torture of
Yeah.
Greyjoy. We see it here in 1923 with the Dalton character that he plays. His name is Whitfield in the show. There's a lot of shows that kind of do that. And quite frankly, I'm over it. Uh, give me a different way to know that the person is evil. It's like they give you, and it's almost interesting that it's presented in the same way. Like they give you these like speeches which say how morally bankrupt they are, and then the chef's kiss of that is the reveal of the torture of someone,
Right.
you know and their speeches are always so chilling because it's like, the ultimate summation of the speech is, I am who I am because I have absolutely no moral center. There's no compunction here whatsoever to not be horrible, you know.
Right.
So yeah. But again, I have not watched Yellowstone yet. For some reason, it's on exclusively on Peacock, which I'm like refusing to get yet another streaming service. I'm just tired of all of that.
Yeah.
There seemed, I guess there was I looked it up. There was like a deal when there was just Yellowstone, that was going to make it exclusive to Peacock. But then when his deal expanded and he got the ability to do the other shows, it was too late to renegotiate for Peacock to share with Paramount Plus streaming. So they're like
Hmm.
basically maintaining their death grip on it until their contract expires. So it may be a couple more years before
Hmm.
you're able to watch that one on Paramount Plus. But you can again watch all the other shows. Landman is also really interesting. That's the more modern show set in like contemporary times.
Yeah.
Really enjoying that. Demi Moore, she's in it. And I've just gotten into more of her parts in the
Hmm.
show. I really like how they have done her character. The evolution is kind of quick. The change from how you first see her in season one to how she is now, it does seem kind of quick, but I like it. It's not bad. I like it. So if you are interested in all, go and check that out.
Yeah.
Um,
I for whatever reason, a few weeks ago, I started watching clips of Landman, and so I've almost watched Landman, but through
That's
like
how I
YouTube
felt. That's
clips.
how I felt
Yeah.
about Yellowstone. I was like, I feel like I've watched this show already.
Yeah.
I've seen so many little clips of it and whatever else. And I mean, it's just like I feel like I had to watch it because I've just seen so many.
Hmm.
Another show that I also watched is called The Pit. It's on HBO Max, or just Max as it's
Hmm.
called now. That show features Noah Wiley playing a doctor yet again. You may remember him from ER way back in the day. He's back playing an older doctor. In this one, he's teaching students as well. And each season is basically one day. So like every episode is 1 hour in the same day, and you're watching them go through their days and make it through. I think it's an interesting way to tell a story. I've
Hmm.
really enjoyed it, and I swear the pacing on it is so good that like you don't feel overwhelmed. And when the show ends, you're mad because you're like, I'm finally like I'm comfortable. I'm in this. I'm ready for more, and then it's over.
Yeah. My mom's been
Um,
watching The Pit, and she says she likes it a lot too. So
yeah, so that's good. And then last but not least, the thing that I actually just watched today for the first time. It's called Primal, and it's on Max as well. It's from the same animators. It's a cartoon. It's from the same animators who brought us Samurai Jack. Now I had
Samurai
heard
Jack.
about I had heard about Primal a while back, and I had meant to watch it. And actually, to be honest, I think I might have seen an episode or two of like the first season,
Mhm.
but I never went and finished the whole thing. I was very much obsessed with Samurai Jack.
I
They recently
love
went
Samurai
back.
Jack
Yeah,
so much.
I don't know if you know, but they recently went back and finally finished the show.
Yeah.
They closed that book,
Mhm.
and so I was watching Primal, and let me tell you, man, that show is
Something else, right?
oh yeah, boy, it's rough. It's
Yeah.
but in a really good way. I'm like I got to some episodes today that I guess now we're venturing more into like the supernatural aspect of the show. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody or like that, but like tonight's episode, or at least the most recent episode that I watched today, was pretty graphic. And
Yeah.
um yeah, that was kind of hard to watch, but I like the story overall. Want to see where it goes, how they're gonna, work this into whatever is next. And I'm really glad that there is more adult animation, I guess. Like, and by that, what I mean is this show started out 100% for adults. Unlike Samurai Jack, that was when it was in its inception was for kids,
Every
teens,
moment
whatever.
of violence of cutting, it's always a robot character that's being torn
Yeah.
up. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's explosions, not blood, whatever. Primal is not that. You're watching
Gore and
blood,
viscera and
gore, yeah,
everything else.
organs
Yeah,
are out, eyes getting, popped out, and just all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's very much an adult cartoon, and I appreciate that.
yeah.
So if you're interested at all, I would strongly suggest going and checking it
I just,
out.
again, that's another show I've seen clips of, but I haven't actually watched the show
Ah,
itself.
it's good. I really enjoy it. And the beauty of it is too, there's like very little talking.
Yeah.
It's just action all the
Hmm.
time, and it's a great way to tell a story because you
Hmm.
don't rely on any character giving you any kind of narration whatsoever. You are just a part of their experience. You're
Yeah.
watching as they make the connection to things in real. I just love it. I think they're
Yeah.
doing a great job with that. So I hope that stays strong. So there you go. That's what I've spent so much time on recently between being off in the storms and Super Bowl and sickness and all the rest of it. So it's been an interesting few days, but I'm looking forward to this new week and getting back to doing some other things.
Gotcha.
But we're not here to talk about all that. We are here to talk about all things Star Trek. Now, as David said, we are going to be talking about the Star Trek Voyager episode, Time and Again. But before we get to Time and Again, I think we should go ahead and cover the Cisco part of Star Trek Starfleet Academy. Now,
Mm.
the name of the episode was Series Acclamation Mill, which the acronym for that is SAM. That is the name of one of the characters in this show. And the tie in here for that character to Cisco is that she is an emissary for her people. And she has basically been tasked with finding out if um, the Federation at large is a threat or a danger to them. And so she has been sent to the academy to gather information on the various, races, and of course, Starfleet itself. So she ends up making a uh, a connection with Cisco in the sense of, again, she's an emissary. She's learning about emissaries. He is the emissary when it comes to Starfleet and Bajor and so forth. And so she begins her own historic deep dive on the captain and becomes obsessed with finding out what happened to Cisco, where, what was his fate.
Mhm.
And that's pretty much where our story picks up. Now, of course, the episode itself has a lot of other things going on. There's another B plot, whatever else. But again, we are not focusing on that. We are focusing on the aspects of the show as they relate to Deep Space Nine and Benjamin Sisko. Now, this is a first for us. I know I'm saying a lot, and I'm getting ready to turn it over to David, I promise. But this is the first for us because this is the first time that David and I both have never seen the episode. We get this is our first time viewing, first time getting to talk about it, and so Everything is new, no nuanced whatever. Me sitting on this for 20 years, eager to discuss it. I watched this episode last week, so that's it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, David, what did you think of Sam?
Yeah, so I'll admit up front that as I've kind of hinted to before, like there's a YouTube channel that I'm subscribed to, and they talk about modern shows, and they have been lambasting this show. They think it's terrible.
They would
uh,
not be the only ones who think that. There are a
right.
lot of people. I'm a member of several different YouTube channels and various postings and everything else for things Star Trek and Star Trek related. And it's very rare that I've come across anyone who has said anything positive about the
Yeah,
Starfleet Academy show.
yeah. If we're gonna stick to just the Cisco elemented, Deep Space Nine stuff, I'll say this again. I would say that one of these videos I watched probably, I think they said it first, but the way I would say it is your response to that book we read, the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko, all the references to various characters and things, you felt it was just fluff, right? That like there was,
Yeah. So to just recap that real quick, I did not like the autobiography book. I felt like a lot of the things that Dave was talking about, the overemphasis of certain things about Benjamin's family history and location and everything else, I felt like it was way too over the top. Like
Mhm.
they were trying to make it resonate in a certain way, but they did not do enough of the work to make the legitimate connection.
Right.
So it just became a bunch of name dropping that meant
Yeah.
nothing.
Okay. So that's how I feel this episode was doing it. They were trying to say more about emissaries, like but the complaint that I heard was is that the only reason Sam calls herself an emissary is because this is an episode about Cisco, who was the emissary, and so the character was also, it's meta. We call Sam an emissary because we called Cisco an emissary, and it's not that she's an emissary necessarily. I mean, maybe she is fine, but like the story is too meta in that sense. It's
Yeah.
too
Okay.
on the nose. All the references to Cisco and like the quote at the end is interesting about the laws of the universe, which it's a great quote, but it feels like a lot of what this episode, the complaint that people made, and I feel like I understood their complaint, was that this is all a lot of fluff, and that Kurtzman Trek has a problem of, hey, here's a reference to the thing, and it's a surface
So
level reference. It doesn't really go much deeper, and it loses its meaning. There was that Cisco quote, like an episode or two before, that got butchered, for example.
that was actually a Picard quote that got butchered, but
Excuse me, let's say Picard.
but
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
So
But yeah, what do you
my
think?
I agree with everything that you said, and I feel like this is why the B plot in the show was so silly. Um and it really didn't need to exist because what they should have done was used all of their time to focus on making us understand more about Sam, because this is the first time that we're introduced to a character of her type. And so to really make the whole connection of her being an emissary stick, we needed to know more about her.
Right,
And the, so that way when they got to the stuff about Cisco, it would have made more sense. But
right,
we didn't get that. We got very little about Sam. We got very little about just how she's an emissary. We get to see her manipulated at one point in the show, which again, it went nowhere other than to just show us that it was possible. Again, there was no connection for these things. So I get exactly what you're saying and what those others on the show that you were talking about, what they were saying as well.
mhm,
They shouldn't have wasted time with this B plot of a visiting ambassador or something that was going on. I don't know. I honestly wasn't paying that much. I was honestly angry during those parts because I was like, get back to this. This is what your show is about. This episode, this is what it's about. Make me understand this. Now, um, again, I'm not going to critique the actors and their abilities and things like that. I'm just only going to speak about the story. If we want to talk
right,
about Starfleet Academy, in that scope. We may do that later, but I don't want to do that because a lot of these people are also very new, and I think that they need time.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not going to uh, do that. But the behind the scenes of this was, this episode was written by Tawny Newsom. Tawny Newsom played Mariner Beckett on um, Lower Decks, and she is an avid Star Trek fan, has been active in the Star Trek community for quite a while. She's also one who won the Star Trek write-in contest. She
Hmm.
wrote, like a proposed episode. And I don't think they actually filmed the episode that she wrote, but because they enjoyed the episode so much, she was brought on. She was able to, lend to other Trek projects like Lower Decks, and now she co-authored this episode as well. She
Hmm.
has said in multiple interviews how very important it was for her to pay this tribute to Deep Space Nine, and in particular to Avery Brooks, because she feels like there is so much of Deep Space Nine that was largely overlooked and just basically ignored for a very long time. And as a person who is, has been a part of this fandom since I was like 8 years old, I will 100% agree.
Right.
When we talked about that in our own show, how overlooked Deep Space Nine was, and people didn't really start to pay attention to the show until it had already been off the air. I mean, and completely off to the air, not last season airing or anything like that, but the show completely finished in its entirety for like 20 years before
Right.
anyone was like, "Oh, this is actually pretty good, pretty groundbreaking stuff."
Hmm.
She wanted to cover a lot, and there's a scene in the episode where Sam sits down and she's talking to the holographic representation of the orb, and
Hmm.
she says, Captain Cisco, she says it basically to the point of, I want to tell you how much you mean to me.
Right.
And this is something that was coming from Newsom and some of the other people who really felt a certain way about Deep Space Nine and about Benjamin Sisko, and also about Avery Brooks, who many feel like has been, largely misunderstood as well.
Yeah.
Um, some more behind the scenes info. Sirach Lofton, who makes an appearance in this episode, and is also the executive producer on the episode, also had a hand in how this episode was developed.
Hmm.
And so the story goes, he was keeping Avery Brooks in the loop too, and they ultimately got him to sign off, gave his blessing on basically what we get here, and he actually got to speak to the actress who plays Sam, and you can actually watch that online, where she receives a phone call from
From him.
Avery Brooks, and they talk a bit and do their whole thing. So, and that's about the most activity that anybody has on Avery Brooks in, like, again, the last 15 or 20 years. Like, no one sees him. No, he's not really doing anything. They pretty much just, they account that as him just being largely retired, but I mean, it's almost recluse level
Yeah.
with the way that he's just not, um, active on things. Now, to each their own. If Mr. Brooks has a reason for why he doesn't want to, do stuff, I am certainly not going to be the one that's going to be like, "Nah, you got to,"
Drag
But
him out of his cave. Yeah.
yeah, but I hope that um, he sees through episodes like this and through people like Tawny Newsom and hearing continuously from Sirach that, he is very much, admired and appreciated. And we'd love to see more from him if he is ever willing. Um, Anything else that you want to add about what you thought of the Cisco parts of this story?
Yeah. I'll just end because then we want to move on. But I'll just end. See if I can find the quote. Let me see if I can find the quote that um, Cisco's final quote.
So
Um,
while he's looking that up, I'm just going to explain that quote really quick. That is not a quote from Cisco per se. That's actually something from Avery Brooks. He'd released an album, and there is a song, I guess, outro that he does, and that's an excerpt from that. He gave them permission to use it. I
yeah.
will say this for what he's for that quote that he gives. His delivery of it was beautiful. Like
Oh yeah.
listening to his voice once again, you always expect people when they get older, they lose a little bit, whatever. I didn't feel like that at all with him when I was listening to that recording. I don't know how long ago he did it, but I mean, it sounded great, and I love the overlay there.
Yeah.
But go ahead if you found it.
Yeah, it's so this is the quote. This is what plays at the end of the episode as it's like wrapping up. It's just a straight up it's Avery Brooks giving this line. He says divine laws are simpler than human ones, which is why it takes a lifetime to be able to understand them. Only love can understand them. Only love can interpret these words as they were meant to be interpreted. I think that's great. I really like that a lot. I think it's maybe a little bit fluffy and it's kind of out there. Like I think you do need to tie it down to a belief system, frankly. But I get his point. You know, there are such things as divine laws. I would say there are laws that if we don't like in the here and now, it's easy to be angry and give into to like hatred, for example. And love is something that requires love is patient, love is kind, love is I don't know the verse very well, but it love is
We know
self-sacrificing.
what you mean. Right, right.
Exactly. And those are things that you don't learn in a day. Those are things that take a lifetime. So I like that quote. If that is to hear you say, that's from him directly. That's from not just Siska. It's from Avery Brooks. That's great. Um, yeah, I guess I'd also say this though. The problem with the episode is the problem that Deep Space Nine has left us. What the hell happened to Cisco?
So, and and it's one of those situations where there is so much behind the scenes things that happened that's why we have this gaping hole
Yeah.
of a mystery.
Mhm.
The way that Avery Brooks was treated, to whoever you want to speak to, some people believe he was way too eccentric to work with, other people believe he was straight up, blacklisted. There was an active campaign to keep him from continuing to work, especially at his height in the 90s, the late 90s. That there was all kinds of things like that were going on
Mhm.
in that massive rumor mill there. So I mean, I don't know if we'll ever know unless Mr. Brooks wants to step forward and say what happened. If he just wants to be like, what, I was tired and I want to be done for a while. I don't
Mhm.
know, but there's no way, in my opinion anyway, there's no way in watching Deep Space Nine and the performance that he gave, that beyond it being his choosing,
Mhm.
that he should not have been in greater demand and done other things
Right.
and been asked to come back in some other capacity in Trek projects.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot to be addressed there. Now, um, for my part on this episode, I actually largely enjoyed the tribute that they give to Cisco in this kind of making him. I was calling him Starfleet's Schrodinger captain. He both returned and didn't return
Yeah.
because we don't know, enough. And the character who's the teacher in this episode, we learn is Isla Dax of
Yeah.
all people. She kind of intimates that that's where things ended as well. Like we've got enough evidence that it could be either way, and then ultimately it doesn't matter because the idea of Cisco has, transcended time and
Mhm.
has meant so much and has still done so much that it doesn't really matter if he came back or not. Now, some other glaring plot issues that I found was the fact that they don't mention what happened to Cassidy at all. Like
Mm.
we see the hologram of Jake Cisco, who's for some reason curating the museum in New Orleans, which is fine. But where is his other child?
Yeah.
Cassidy was pregnant when we last saw her at the end of Deep Space Nine. What happened to the baby?
Yeah.
No mention whatsoever. And then, Isla Dax turns up and she's got the only known copy of Jake's infamous book, Anselm.
Mhm.
Why does she have it? Like, and how did
Yeah.
she get it?
And why
Uh,
did he not publish it wider? Why is it only a private book?
right.
Yeah.
you know yeah, there's some issues here that
Yeah. I'm
they introduced questions that they intentionally did not answer, and
yeah.
they didn't have to do that. I wish that they had not gone that route at all.
I'm going to be very blunt. I feel I don't know Tawny Newsom. I haven't seen her on Lower Decks or anything else she's ever done. But to hear that she wrote this episode and cast herself as Dax, I honestly feel like this is a bit of a self-aggrandizement in a bit.
So so
She's the
two quick
character.
points.
Well, I just
She
want to say she's the character of Dax, who the only one who could have any sort of definitive thing to say about him, other than Sirach Lofton's character as Jake,
Mhm.
but he's dead. And then she's the only one who has a copy of Anne Slim. It felt it knowing that she, because again I had already heard about this episode before I watched it. Watching it in the moment, I didn't like necessarily care for her acting, like the whole like pretend like the fact that she doesn't reveal that she's Dax until the end of the episode felt anyway. But go ahead, you have something to say in response.
So I was going to just say really quick for Tawny Newsome, she's only credited as a co-author. I do believe that there was a lot of, kind of back and forth between her and the other person who was writing this, certain things they had to fit in, and so I don't think that it was 100% her brainchild that made it to screen. I'm sure there were a lot of edits, a lot of changes before they got to the final product. Now, she does also in one of her interviews speak about the fact that she plays Isla Dax. They had decided um, pretty early on that it was going to be Dax who makes the final connection here for us. But
Hmm.
when it came to casting someone to play Dax, they ran into several issues, and it
Hmm.
ultimately got to the point where they were just like kind of down to the wire and needed
Hmm.
someone to do it, and she was there, and they were just like,
Okay.
I'll do it. So
All
I
right.
don't think that it was her being like, I'm gonna write this and I'm also gonna be Dax too. I do
Okay.
think there was a lot of, yes, she was very adamant about the story that she wanted told
Right.
and got that done, but then it became a problem when it was like realistically casting this kind of one-off character, what can we do? And trying to find someone who would be willing to play one, a character that was so important, but two, for all intents and purposes, is never going to be seen again.
Yeah.
That's kind of a hard sell for an actor who's trying to, do things, but she was ready made for it. So I think that's why
Okay. All right.
that works out there.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I do plan on going back and watching this episode again, just because I just feel like there are so many other things that I probably missed, and I would like to just kind of see how I feel about it on a second watch. Haven't
Hmm.
done so since I haven't done that yet. I intend to. Um, I don't have any intention of watching any more of Starfleet Academy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make a statement as to whether or not I feel like the show is good or bad. There's plenty of that out there. I will say I just don't feel like this is a show for me. I feel like the characters are too young for me. They're again, we've talked about this before. They're going through things that I'm well past. Um, yeah, it's just not for me. It's not.
Yeah.
And the older characters on the show, they seem to be doing anything but showing any kind of true growth and development, which I don't know, maybe they shouldn't because the show is focused on the kids, and so you want the adults to be more like um
Can I give you my pitch of
eh,
what this show should have been?
sure.
I think this show should have been an exploration. Like it's like a the students study crucial moments in not just Starfleet history, but like history in general of like commanders on starships or captains on ships or commanders on battlefields and the interaction between diplomacy and violence. And like and this is how I would have pitched it. Each episode is like they go into some sort of holographic suite and you have the same the students are the same main characters, but they are given Kobayashi Maru style historical moments to explore. Like
Okay. I
why
can see
is
that.
why is this moment of history, real or fictional, a story worth exploring and studying and trying to understand as we try and like rebuild the Federation.
Yeah, because that's exactly what they're supposed to be doing is they're rebuilding the Federation. This is the first group of cadets to return to Starfleet Academy. And one thing that has always been true in all of Trek is that, yes, we have powerful weapons and powerful ships and like that, but we err on the side of diplomacy first
Right.
before drawing a phaser. And I think that would be an interesting show to watch as to how that mentality was developed. How did that become your mainstay? Because for a lot of cultures, it isn't, especially when you have anything remotely resembling a military. They're not taught peace actions first,
Right.
military weapons actions second or last.
Right.
So yeah, how did they go about switching that?
Hmm.
And yeah, I'd be interested in watching that show too. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's not what we're getting here. So
Yeah. I mean, I'll just final statement. The reason this episode, I felt I can understand why people didn't like it as well. Is like it feels the character breaks the fourth wall. Sam breaks the fourth wall throughout the episode, and I don't feel like that's a Star Trek thing. I don't feel like I can and never think of Picard, Cisco, Janeway, or any of those casts ever breaking the fourth wall
and
with.
largely she breaks the fourth wall and it's unintentional. I think that's another part
Yeah.
of it too. It's like a lot of times when characters break the fourth wall, like probably the most famous character for doing that is Deadpool.
Yeah.
um there's a reason, and
Hmm.
it adds something to the story. What we're getting
Yes.
here is not that. It
Yeah.
almost seems accidental when it
Yeah.
happens.
Hmm.
And yeah, that is a failing. I i don't know if they realized that was what was happening, because I always felt like they were setting it up like it was supposed to almost be like someone, they're telling you a story or they're reading you a love letter or whatever, and it's to you, but they didn't frame this quite right. So it's clumsily handled for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand a character breaking the fourth wall in the sense that like they're talking about the star date, blah 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 blah. This is what happened, but it's not breaking the fourth wall in that true sense, like the character here was. But anyway, we don't have to keep talking. We got a whole
Yeah,
freaking
we have
Voyager episode to get to. My God, we're
we
almost in an
do.
hour.
And we spent, I mean, but in all fairness, we didn't spend 40 minutes on this, but
True.
it's
And I don't have much to say about this episode of Voyager. I think we could get through it pretty quick.
we absolutely can. The episode is the what is this, the third, fourth episode in the
Well,
season?
it's the third in the sense that the pilot was 2 hour
Two, right,
long
right.
compared into one.
Yeah.
So however you want to think
Yeah,
about
and
it.
and yeah, this is kind of a weird one. Yes, yet again, Voyager dealing with time travel stuff. They pick up, there's a planet, and then there's some kind of weird energy reading. Kess has a freak out moment, and they beam down to this planet where there's all these apparently invisible floating energy temporal shards, and Janeway and Tom Paris get sucked into one of them, and now they're like a day and a half in the past on this planet before the cataclysm that's going to destroy everything. And ultimately Janeway realizes it's them who caused the problem, and so they've got to stop Voyager for trying to rescue them, because the rescue attempt is what causes the explosion, something along those lines. Again, you're the first time viewer. What did you think?
Yeah, to be very clear, what happens at the end is um, the part of the crew that is like, I don't know the characters' names very well yet, but like
The
the
ones that were
engineer
still on the
character,
ship, B'Elanna,
Valana,
Chakotay, Tuvok.
Tuvok. Okay, it's like
Yeah,
those guys. They develop a system where they can like pierce through the subspace particles to try and get Janeway and Paris
Tom
back.
Paris. Yes.
But unfortunately, it's at the location of this super dangerous energy facility that they do it at, which is exactly what causes this whole thing to happen. And then Janeway realizes that, stops it from happening by using a phaser, and that like terminates the time loop in that they go back in time to before everything happened, and Kess like has some sort of moment where she like feels that something happened but it didn't happen. So like literally the end of the episode is a repeat of the beginning of the episode, but nothing happens. And so it literally it's like any of those. It was just a dream kind of storytelling that people hate. Like everything was a dream. It didn't actually happen. It's not a dream. It's well, it kind of is. Kess had an emotional reaction to events that terminated on themselves. Now, I do want to say this episode is a perfect example for why time travel doesn't yet exist, if it ever will, because it is self-terminating and it's
Right. This is
or
uh This is one of those where the phrase, and I've always loved this phrase ever since The West Wing, post hoc ergo propter hoc.
yes,
After this, therefore, because. So basically, it's this whole logical fallacy reasoning where just because event X
happened.
happened after Y doesn't necessarily mean that it should
Why
follow
was
Y or because of X, something along those lines.
yeah.
But this episode precisely matches that fallacy. So
Just
it's
because this
basically
happened after that doesn't mean that that caused this. Yeah,
right. And
right.
so they were looking at it from the position of when they arrived, the planet was already devastated. So they beamed down to investigate, got
Yeah,
caught in the time travel, whatever. And then the crew was trying to rescue them. So the rescue attempt, which came after the devastation, is now going to be the cause of the same devastation they were there to investigate in the first place. So they
it
never would have traveled back in time had they not had to rescue them at some point in the same timeline.
right. And
So
and
basically, it's a great
here's
episode for minding your own business. You show up and the
yes.
planet's been destroyed, keep it moving. Don't go
Well,
down there.
and here's my problem with all that. If your time travel story depends on the audience's perspective watching events happen as why this current event is happening, then you don't truly appreciate the cause and effect in the real world. Like, let me put it this way: 60 seconds ago, it was the present, and now it's the present, and 60 seconds from now will also be the present when you're in the present. So if you do something in the past, it time ah, if you're gonna do time travel, take it more seriously. Don't. I mean, this
Yeah.
episode just felt silly, and I didn't care for the characters because these people are mad. Like the energy is super dangerous, and so like they're protesting at the plant, and then like they're willing to kill the kid that they end up with. Like they're willing to threaten the kid in order to do what they're gonna do. So like you don't know, like, are these people good or bad? You think, Janeway thinks that what they're gonna do is gonna somehow blow up the plant and cause the event, and then it turns out no, it's not their fault. Yada yada. So this whole thing just felt very. I felt like as we're getting toward the end, I was starting to roll my eyes pretty hard because I was like, these characters. I don't really care for these characters. The whole Prime Directive is like Janeway shoots down the Prime Directive in the middle of the episode. She's like, "No, our very fact that we're here is already affecting everything that's going on," and it's like that doesn't mean you stop trying to not do the Prime Directive. Like you don't ever get a permission slip saying, "Well, you already screwed it up, so you know keep going." That's not how that's supposed to work, right?
So they don't do a very good job of letting Janeway kind of like explain her reasoning on the Prime Directive and what kind of violation this is,
Yeah,
especially considering it was like, okay, you recognized at some point that this was a pre-warp civilization, so the Prime Directive would have applied. But then it's like the Prime Directive doesn't apply because technically they're already dead, because when you beam down, the planet was already devastated, and then
right.
you got sucked back into time. And then, when the guy brings it up, when Paris brings it up, he's like, hey, what about, this Prime Directive, whatever? She's like, yeah, doesn't really matter here because whatever, and then they just kind of move on. Like you're right, they don't do a good job of explaining um kind of these core things that we all know are a part of Starfleet. It's almost like, why did you bring it up at all? Because no one was thinking about it
Hmm.
until so and so said it. I feel like sometimes in these writers rooms, you probably got like one person in there who's like vaguely aware of some of the lore or the reasoning, And
Okay.
so when someone's like telling their story, I get to see them, they're sitting back in their chair and they're doing this number right here. And,
Yep.
they're just like, well, what if? And then they spit out a bunch of stuff. And then Poindexter down at the end is like, well, actually. And then they say whatever. And some loser writes it down and they get it wrong because, they only half know those words or vaguely remember something else. And then boom, that's episode. And now you've got this weird hodgepodge of mess that we as the audience have to figure out a way to reconcile because you're not going to reconcile it for us. You don't
Yeah.
care, you know.
Right.
And the I love when they do these interviews with the cast and the directors and the writers stuff years later, of course, right? And
Hmm.
they'll say things like, well, we never would have imagined that people would have the ability to, stream and restream the episode or notice this particular detail or whatever. Like how many times they've been caught, like on the Enterprise, with weird names for things written on bulkheads and whatever else because they never thought that 4K would ever be a thing and someone would be able to digitally enhance the label or whatever it is. Just like,
Hmm.
yeah, have you here's the thought. How about you just pay attention to detail because that's the right thing to do? Like, why is your answer to sloppy writing and sloppy storytelling always going to be, well, no one's going to come back to this anyway, so we don't care. Just get it out. Just get
Yeah.
it out there. We don't care. No one's going to watch us again in 20 years. Who
Right.
cares? you know, that shouldn't be the answer to your um, to solving your problem when you're being pitched the story and someone points out that you've written yourself into a box here and you need a solution and your
Yeah.
solution is to you know MacGuffin your way out of it, and then you're when someone else will, can you really do that? And your response is, well, who cares?
Yeah.
No one's gonna come back to this in 20 years. We absolutely will
Yeah.
come back to this in 20 years. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. This episode, and of course, also on Wikipedia, people point out that, we just had a timey-wimey episode last time. And it was also one of those, we go back in time and we see ourselves and we affect ourselves. It's like, guys, I mean, if you want to have this plot again, great, but like give yourself a season or two to like.
I've talked about this a couple of times over the years, and I believe that really what was going on here was there was someone who really, really, really likes time travel episodes, and they had been shot down on TNG and Deep
D
Space
Space
Nine,
Nine.
and when they got to Voyager, they were like, "You're doing my show."
You need my
You,
plots to get
you
a
yeah,
story
I
going.
will I
Yeah.
will not write another thing until you do these episodes. And so someone's like, fine, just
Yeah.
do it. Just give
Yeah.
it to us.
Yeah.
Anything to move the story forward. Good God,
And I, I want to be clear. Part of the problem this story is frustrating is because if the problem the story Voyager is presenting is that they are lost in space, more so than even the show Lost in Space, like they are so far away
Well, no,
from
they're
home.
they're not nearly as Lost in Space.
Well, I'm just saying,
But yeah, I
they
get yeah,
are.
they're not nearly as lost. Lost in Space, they were truly lost. They had
I
no
know. My
direction as to
roommate's
where
watching
they're.
the show right now, so it came to my head when
Wait,
I
are
said
they
it. But
watching the new version on
yeah,
Netflix, or are they
uh,
okay, yeah, that was actually a really good, uh, reboot. I
yeah, it
watched it
wasn't
too,
bad.
I enjoyed it.
I remember
Uh,
I watched season one with my former roommate way back when, and he was rewatching it because his current girlfriend, she was watching it too. It's like they're watching it together. But anyway, my point is that
anyway, yes.
Voyager is supposed to be about they're lost. They need to find a way home, and yeah, they can explore things because that's what they do. And of course, they need to find people who can help them move on. But if you're not gonna, I mean, the only reference to their situation happens at the beginning of the episode, which is also repeated at the end of Paris being like, "Hey, what's the character? He's like, "Hey, you should help me go meet up with the twins." That they're two
Harry
girls that
Kim, the
Harry
Delaney
Kim.
sisters.
Yeah.
The
So
Delaney
Kim,
sisters.
join me because I need to get a double date going. That's the only reference there because Kim apparently has someone back home that he is
He has a
hoping to be reunited
long-term
with.
girlfriend that he's hoping to be reunited and engaged to.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just wish this episode had started with more of a, hey, are we really gonna take the time to go explore this dead planet because some
Yeah.
bombs seem to have gone off? Do we have time for this? Not really. Well, maybe we'll find something. Like that argument never took place, and yet I imagine they will at some point have that argument. Like there'll be a scene. We've been
So it's
doing
one of
this for
those
two
things where
years,
it's
and we
like
need to. Yeah.
where they weren't really sure what road they really wanted to travel down in regards to Voyager.
Yeah.
Um, Early on, before the show ever even got an ounce of filming, there was this desire to return to what they considered the glory days of Next Generation, which is a ship out in deep space, exploring and having these, wild
Unique
and wacky
adventures. Yeah.
adventures every week. And so they moved everything to the Delta Quadrant because it was, gives them an ability of, everything old is new again. We've got new species, we've got new exploration, we've got all the stuff that we can do, that we're in a whole new area, which, had a lot of appeal. But see, then I feel like their mistake was in trying to too closely replicate that open explorative aspect of Next Generation.
Right.
They have the ability in Next Generation to explore the way that they do, because even though they're in technically unknown, uncharted waters in the Alpha Quadrant, there is still a foundational structure in place in the Alpha Quadrant, so that when something goes wrong, they're never truly too far away from a star base. There's backup somewhere, or there's
Mhm.
a friendly civilization who at least knows a little bit about the Federation and Starfleet that
Right.
they can depend on, none of that exists for Voyager.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, while yes, there is a obvious opportunity for exploration here, there also should have been, all of your things are tinged with a greater enhanced element of fear.
Right.
Because if it goes wrong in any way, if it goes too far south, there's no backup, there's no start base, there's no anything. Even if you decide to settle down on a planet somewhere, you know nothing about that planet and its ecological structure, the people, the animals, nothing.
Right.
Nothing could be potentially available, hospitable for you and your people. And
Hmm.
it's not just, your crew is not just a bunch of humans. So if the thing is poisonous to humans, does that mean it's poisonous to the Vulcans, the Andorians, the Tellarites, the Genobulans, the whomever? No, you don't know. There's too
Yeah.
many unknowns to, so that, again, going back to my earlier statement of, you come across a planet that's been devastated,
Mhm.
why are you sticking around? You should have
Right.
scanned the planet, seen that it was dead,
Yeah.
and moved on. Your one crew member who says anything about it being something else is an alien who's indigenous to the area. You guys are not. And that's just the one person. Tell her, oh, that's sad. Go to your room. Let the adults keep going here,
Yeah.
because we're
And
we're trying to do something. Yeah.
that's my other complaint too. Is Kess? I mean,
Her
I
her
know.
importance, her sudden significance,
Yeah.
is a problem for me, and it stays a problem for me.
Yeah.
I
The
get
the.
that they want us to be like, every crew member matters, but
Mhm.
sorry, she doesn't.
Yeah.
She's the most superfluous character
In the
on
history
your
of.
show right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's supposed to be another TNG character. Roy. Not Counselor Troy.
Yeah, Deanna.
Deanna, that's what I was trying to say. She's basically Deanna because she's like an empath or something. But like her empath abilities are just now coming out. Is this what this episode implies? Like she says, I've heard tales
She's
of.
getting she's getting greater and greater experience with him. So, like, because when we first meet Cass in the opener, she tells the story of how her people used to have great mental abilities,
Oh, and they
and that
did do
it's
stuff like
become,
that in that
and
episode. Okay,
yeah,
that's
and
right.
it's all been severely dulled, almost in the sense of being, dead now.
Right,
They can't do a lot of the things that they were, um, rumored to have done
right.
millennia ago.
Hmm.
And so now here she is, surrounded by these new aliens traveling through space, and suddenly she finds herself becoming aware of greater and greater abilities.
Uh huh.
Um, so yeah, it's interesting that she's from a society where your these abilities were rumors, were myths and legends, and within a couple of weeks, again, weeks since we picked you up from that planet,
Uh huh.
you're now demonstrating these extra abilities so quickly.
Right.
No one sees a problem with that. Like, like humans used to have tails. You know, I me talking suddenly about how we used to have tails doesn't mean that in 2 weeks I'm going to spout, an extra appendage here.
Oh,
Because that's kind of how they play it in this episode. She talked about it and believes it so heartily that now she's getting all these extra abilities. If my crew member came up to me and was like, "Yeah, I'm sensing this, I'm sensing that," and there's only rumors of their people ever having that ability, I'm not gonna. That's not gonna be a reason for me to pause and suddenly start digging into things and be like,
yeah,
okay, go see the doctor. We're
yeah,
not alternating. We're not changing our game plan here
right,
because you suddenly had a bad dream.
yeah,
Like, go get some medicine. Go back to sleep. By the time you wake up, we'll be a couple hundred light years away from this whole scenario.
right. Well, and the idea that Kess and what's his face can just go
Neelix.
on the Felix just go on the bridge whenever they feel like it. Like, boys and girls, this is the bridge, and you're only allowed on here if you have permission.
Well, and
All right,
they're just
fine. There are guides to this part of
right.
space. Okay.
They're just so nice about it. Neelix comes on the bridge, and Kes comes on the bridge, and Janeway's just like, look, really next time you shouldn't be up here unless you're called for or you're invited, whatever. If that had been Jean-Luc, I mean, they never would
Yeah.
have set foot off the turbo lift. They'd
Yeah.
have been peeking over, and even that would have pissed him off. Hey, as soon as he notices them, what's out there in this room?
Yeah.
Worf, handle my light work. That's how that would have gone,
Yeah.
But
You can't
none
handle
of that.
children and upstart
Yeah.
ensigns and yeah.
So
Ugh.
I think that this episode overall was clumsy.
Yeah.
I don't think that it is all that great. But again, this is the first season, and historically, first seasons for all Trek shows have been overall clumsy. They're
Yeah.
trying to find their footing. They're trying to help
Do
you out.
something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So help you understand characters and so forth. So
Right.
who knows?
Hmm.
We'll give it time, of course. One final thing I do want to say, not just about this episode, but about um, Trek. I read an interesting fact, and it costs currently $100 million to make 10 episodes of
A show.
Star Trek Starfleet Academy.
Academy. Right.
It cost them $100 million. Adjusted for inflation, it cost 100 and I think it was $178 million to make 26 episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. So what's going on, guys?
Yeah. Well, it's the sets for one. They like went all out for the set on.
They are very elaborate sets. I
They're
will
big,
they're big, they're
open.
well lit.
Like,
They
I'll just take an example. When they go through the tiny wimey nonsense at the beginning of the episode, they're in a space that seems to have sunlight because, like, the place was. Well, it seems to have sunlight, but like it was all dark and everything when they were first got there in like the present before they went to the past. And it's like, is this a? It feels like a indoor slash maybe outdoor space, but it feels indoorish. Let me put it this way: the set feels small when they go back in time. There's never a big open space like they have
on
for Academy, other than
Oh yes.
being
Okay.
outdoors and walking around in an actual like outdoor space. But yeah, it was Starfleet Academy is like everything takes place in this giant room, right? Like even
So
some of
yeah,
the
so
classes take place,
the ship itself is the Academy,
right?
and
Got
I
cherry
mean
blossom
it's got
trees.
right, it's got they're walking through what looks like a park, and like seriously, if you stop and think about it for a second, when you're seeing those scenes, they're on the ship. They're not they're not just out somewhere. They're on the ship. When they were in one of the episodes, they were playing basketball, I think, whatever, and
Uh-huh.
they're in the gym. That's on the ship. The war college or whatever. That's the ship. Like that was what was killing me so much. And then, like, in the Sam episode, that we finally do see them leave the ship and they go to that, bar or whatever. But everything else is the ship.
Right.
When the admiral or the captain, the chancellor, whatever her role is, I keep forgetting, and the doctor and the other guy from the war college are all having that dinner and everything, they're on the ship
Yeah.
doing that. And it's just so elaborate. I'm like,
Yeah.
is it just the sets? I mean, I know that Holly Hunter's probably commanding a pretty sizable chunk for her, her salary or whatever,
Right.
but still, 100 mil an episode
Yep.
is crazy,
Yeah.
crazy work. And then we're only getting 10 episodes a season, and all of they were filming 26 episode seasons for a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
The whole season, we were getting 26 episodes for 178 million total,
Yeah.
not
Well,
a hundred
and
million per.
and Perry, I'm sure you would appreciate this in general. Like, there is something about limiting your abilities that causes you to have to work harder to make something happen. Like, if they force these shows to have smaller budgets, you can't have the big flashy CGI scene because you don't have a budget for it. So make it work. You don't
Well,
have space for this giant
and Star
spaceship
Trek
looking.
and
Make
Star
it
Trek has
work.
already proven that some of their best episodes come from those low budget moments.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
episode with Data, Measure of a Man, where they're just basically in one room
It's a
and
courtroom
they're
scene.
filming their court procedural. I think it was the cheapest episode on record, and it's instantly held up as one of the classic episodes of Next Generation.
Right.
Deep Space Nine, Duet. It was one room with Kira and Maritza,
Yeah.
and they even said in that one, "Hey, unfortunately, we ran out of money for this episode." I mean, that was their basic premise.
Yeah.
Everybody admits it. When we
Yeah.
got to filming this episode, we had already run out of money. We had no extra money to spare for anything, and we had to figure out what to do because we'd already paid the actor Harris
Mm.
Yulin. We'd already paid, for some of the basic stuff with the set. We had to do something,
Yeah.
and this is what we did, and it's a classic episode. You know, less is more. You know, and I
That's
hate
it.
it, but it seems like they've gone the other way. They always say less is more. Well, think of how much more could be.
Right.
Unfortunately, you're failing at giving us the more for the more.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so yeah, I when I saw that today, that it's already cost them 100 million for the 10 episodes that they've got of the Academy show. That just blew my mind. Like, you've
Yeah.
only got 10 episodes for 100 million, and this other show was pumping out 26 for 178. So, like, really? You know, come on.
Yep. Come on, guys. Try a little harder
Try
for us,
Yeah, try a little bit
please.
harder. Like, something can give here.
Yeah.
And I get it. I get that it can be hard because you are presenting an even more advanced future tech show, and you're needing to show that outgrowth of technology, and that is going to rely more on certain special effects. But I mean, that's why a lot of this stuff was done in house for so long. Y'all don't have anybody that does it anymore. Y'all don't. All of your stuff is outsourced. You've got to pay these third parties. There's no one who can do some of this stuff.
Right.
So, man. But anyway, that is pretty much going to be it for us on this one. We were actually able to cover two things and didn't go over time very much. So that's good.
Oh, the one final thing I want to say is Kate, what's her Kate Mulgrew as Janeway?
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for long, thick hair. When she pulls it down, I was like, she looks lovely.
Well, all I'm going to say to that is don't get attached.
Yeah, I know she cuts it at some point. So.
Well, she doesn't, but it will be something that we discuss. Apparently, they gave Kate Mulgrew quite a lot of grief about
Are
her
you
hair.
kidding me?
Yeah. So
Are you
you are going
fucking-
to see a plethora of hairstyles
Nah,
because
man.
they
Nah.
they gave her no end of grief about the Janeway hair before she finally just was like, look. And I think if I remember her interview, she hasn't finally kind of put her foot down on that until like season 4, season 5.
Mm.
So just think of that, 4 or 5 years, 26, 25 episodes a year, and almost every other one, she's got a different hairstyle.
Hmm.
So that's a
Well,
lot.
people are dumb, I guess. That's all I can say.
People are dumb. People can't just leave well enough alone.
Yeah.
So, but it is what it is. Well, I think that is going to do it for us on this episode.
Because
Unless
hold
you have
on,
something else,
she's like the only. No, I guess there are two. There's
Delana.
Balana, and Kess. Right?
Yes,
Those are the other female characters. Everyone else is male. Interesting.
yes.
Whatever. All right, I'm
Um,
done saying my piece.
yeah. Well, I mean, you've got
Well, 7 of 9
Ensign
comes in.
Wildman is there for a little bit. You got Seska. 7 of 9 comes in later, but yeah, I mean, our three main women are Bolana, Janeway, and Kess.
Right.
So, but yeah.
Okay.
Well, all right, guys, that will actually do it for us on this episode of the Fire Caves. You can find us anywhere and everywhere you listen to podcasts. Also, feel free to go to our site proper, which is HoloSite, excuse me, holosuitemedia.com/the Fire Caves, where you will find all of our episodes and links to some other stuff as well. And also links to things for the various episodes that we talk about. Like if you haven't already checked it out, you should definitely check out Memory Alpha. That site gives you pretty much everything you want to know about any episode of Star Trek and then some. Lots of behind the scenes stuff, stories, interview stuff, interview links, all of that stuff is there. So I always suggest people go and check that out. But until next time, guys, take care of yourselves.
Thanks, guys.